So I saw you all loved, or at least loved to hate, that 2021 Hayabusa sucks video and thought, as long as I'm being needlessly pedantic about motorcycles again, it was time to turn to one of my favorite topics when it comes to bikes: technology. Yep, all those newfangled gizmos and gadgets that manufacturers are cramming onto their bikes, like rider modes, adaptive cruise control, iPads built into the dash, heated seats with massagers built into them like those lazy boys you see at the mall, and all that good stuff. Yeah, it sucks. Now, I know that I've been known to flip-flop on this issue harder than a politician up for re-election, but here's the thing. There's aspects of that I like, the things that are less invasive, but I think we're heading towards an inflection point in the motorcycle industry where we abandon all simple and easy-to-ride motorcycles in favor of sport bikes that basically ride themselves. Unlike my other videos where I say one type of motorcycle sucks, I really urge you to watch this whole video because it's a topic that I think is going to be the center of attention in a lot of discussions in the industry going forward. And don't forget to let me know what you think down below. Now, before we dive too far into this video, one piece of tech you should have is a rock-form phone case. But spite, it's just a bunch of plastic and rubber. How high-tech is that? Well, first of all, it's got a magnet, and that thing's pretty darn snazzy, being all magnetic and stuff and holding your phone to metal. It's like it's got a pocket-sized Magneto from X-Men built in there. But it's also been drop-tested from 6 feet, and yours truly has put that to rigorous scientific study by dropping my phone on my foot a whole bunch of times because I'm basically Linus Tech Tips, but for motorcycles. Seriously though, I do really drop stuff all the time. It's a problem. I really need to stop being such a butterfingers. But back on topic. This case is not only going to protect your phone from human stupidity, but you can also pop it right on their handlebar phone mount so you can see maps on your phone while you ride. Don't forget to click the link down below and check out their whole line of products because they don't just make stuff for your bike. And use the code YN25 to get yourself 25% off your order. Okay, so the first reason why technology on motorcycles sucks is because it's complex. Now, you know me, I like things on a motorcycle to be simple. That's why I don't like carburetors, because no matter what the commenters down below say, those things are crazy complicated. But all this new tech is taking it to a whole nother level. The first time I took the RS660 out for a ride, I was excited to see what all the different rider modes and adjustments did to the motorcycle, but then I saw the menus. It was like an Excel spreadsheet come to life and wanted me to take a quiz on what all the various abbreviations mean. I mean, they have ATC, AWC, ACC, AQS, AEB, AEM, and ABS, and only one of those is standardized. Without taking a look at the website, can you tell me what any of those things mean? Also, why does a motorcycle with 100 horsepower need adjustable slide control? I understand the RS660's main selling point is that it has a bunch of crazy tech, but even my Supermoto has a 6-axis IMU, throttle mapping, cornering ABS, and all sorts of other goodies. If there's one motorcycle on the face of the earth that doesn't need to be taking 1,000 readings a second, it's my SMCR. Technology is becoming needlessly complex and overwhelming on motorcycles to the point where basically every motorcycle is becoming this crazy advanced spaceship. Give me a good old-fashioned cable throttle and ABS, and let's just call it a day. Number 2, ABS is a stopgap to make unrideable motorcycles rideable. I'm about to say something that's going to make a lot of people very upset, so if you've got delicate fifis, then plug your ears. Leader bikes should not be street legal. There, I said it. They are the bleeding edge of motorcycle performance, and they're literally designed for 1% of professional riders to rip them around on a track on Sunday to sell to a bunch of wannabe racers on Monday. But the thing is, those street Rossis don't have the skills to tame 200 plus horsepower. It's okay, neither do I. I'm a complete bozo when it comes to riding motorcycles fast, but I'm confident enough to say that I have no business being on a leader bike. Other people don't want to admit that, and when they accidentally whiskey throttle the bike, 1,000 nannies all jump into action like Mary Poppins crossed with the Terminator to keep you from instantly departing this mortal coil in a fiery ball of fury. We're crossing what I'm going to call the stupidity threshold, where motorcycles are becoming so ludicrously overpowered that the only way to ride them is to have a bunch of tech baked in. So it's basically a feedback loop. More power, more nannies, then more power, then even more nannies, and round and round we go, and where it stops, nobody knows. Whew, okay, so that one was getting a little bit spicy. Let's calm down with number 3, technology reduces the feeling you get from your motorcycle. Let's clarify that sentence because it sounds a little bit like it came from a MotoGP racer's post-race analysis. What I'm talking about is the feedback you get from your bike. You know how when you hop on the throttle on an older motorcycle, you can feel the engine working beneath you, and you can feel the tires starting to slip, or you can really feel the brakes when they're under load? Well, that feeling is lessened when you're riding a motorcycle with super fancy modern tech on it. The reason for that numb feeling is because there's at least one computer between you and the bike at all times, sometimes even more than that. The result of that is a motorcycle that can outperform any old bike under pretty much any circumstance. Threshold braking, a modern bike will come to a stop way faster and with less skidding. If you have electronic suspension, you can almost feel the suspension changing underneath you mid-corner to adjust to your riding style. On the gas, a modern bike modulates the throttle for you, making sure you can put down as much power as humanly possible, or inhumanly possible, I suppose. Some people like that because they can extract the most performance out of their bikes. Those people ride BMW S1000RRs and have no soul. Me, on the other hand, I like the feeling of controlling the motorcycle. Sure, it means I'm slower, but it's so much more fun. It's like manual versus a DCT transmission. Number 4, reliability. Let's face it, when was the last time you bought a new computer and it worked perfectly with no issues? If you're like me, there's always some weird little bug that you can't get to go away no matter how many updates you run. Now imagine that, but on a computer that regularly pulls 70 or 80 miles an hour, runs through the rain and inclement weather on a regular basis. Now you're starting to see my issue. Weather is hard on electronics and it can cause a bunch of problems. The most advanced thing on my 919 was the throttle position sensor, and after about 20,000 miles, it started to have issues, and aside from the ECU, it was the single most expensive item to repair. With more and more of these systems intermingling on a motorcycle, it's hard to predict if a connector wiggling loose will just throw a check engine light, or it'll cause your whole bike to come screeching to a halt. People who saw that Fortnite video about the motorcycle engine oil freaked out, and I wonder what would happen if they tested and found electrical faults in these computers, which cost thousands of dollars. If you have less crazy tech in there, there's just less failure points. It's kind of a no-brainer. Number 5, sticking with the theme of reliability, when you have an electrical fault, they are a royal pain in the ass to fix. Ask anyone who has ever chased down an electrical gremlin, they'd probably rather have built a whole motorcycle from scratch than figure out the little issue that's causing their bike's computer to act all funny. Now let's assume that you have an electrical fault on a brand spanking new Goldwing with that audio system, an electronically adjustable windscreen, rider modes, and more buttons and switches than a NORAD battle station. Are you going to sit there with a code reader and then consult the great Honda Bible of trouble codes and find the one little part that's causing your bike to go all squiffy? No, you're not going to be bothered to do it. Plus, it's probably going to void the warranty if you do. You're going to have to cart that bike off to a dealership for someone to spend a week and a half ripping it apart just to look for the problem, except it's an electrical issue, so they might not be able to recreate the issue, and you're stuck with the man hours it costs to do it. If you're in a place like Austin where labor rates are between $125 to $150 an hour, that's a ton of money just to have somebody say they couldn't recreate the fault so they couldn't do anything about it. Number 6, it's really distracting. Yeah, all this tech is cool, but it can be super duper distracting while you're riding, especially on all these new beginner bikes. Sure, it's neat, and we've heaped a bunch of praise on the modern KTM beginner bikes for having all kinds of rider modes and switchable stuff and TFT dashes, but while you're riding, you shouldn't be messing with any of that stuff. It's like trying to text on your phone while you're driving, and if you don't believe me, try changing to the user-defined parameters on the Rebel 1100 while you're going down the road. Actually, don't do that. That's actually a recipe for disaster, but it's exactly my point. Let me give you another example. The Ducati Panigale V2 that we had as an expert bike giveaway features some truly cutting-edge technology and basically limitless customizability in the modes, but they buried those switchable modes underneath bunches of menus, so you'd have to go on and on through menus to find another setting just to switch this other setting somewhere else. Unless you're stopped, there's no way you can safely navigate that tesseract of madness on that motorcycle. Worse still, changing the rider modes while you're on the go isn't just the flick of a switch. Credit where it's due, Kawasaki did a good job packaging the electronics on the ZH2 so it's not distracting. There's 4 modes and you push a button to cycle through it. It's super duper simple. And another thing while we're talking about it, who has time to program all these crazy complex series of power levels and brake levels before they go for a ride? I just want to turn the bike on and go. Number 7, price. All this technology is driving up the price of motorcycles. There's basically no way around it. All these computers and fancy whiz-bang gadgets that look so good on a spec sheet or in a brochure cost money. There ain't no way in hell companies are footing the bill for that themselves. Let's take a look at my beloved SMCR. I've already mentioned how I think that bike has too much tech in it, but let's break down exactly what it has in there. You've got yourself a 6-axis IMU, which some light Googling puts around $500. You've got a quick shifter, which you can get from Dynajet and cost you $219, but mine is up and down, so let's double it because auto blippers are harder to make, so $440. I have rider modes on the bike, which I'm going to figure the cost at $440 again, and I came to that number by adding the price of a power commander and a map switch. I also have an ABS dongle on my bike, which allows me to disable the rear wheel ABS, and that cost me $115. So doing some quick math puts that at about $1,500. The SMCR cost me $11,899. If my bike didn't have all that stuff, would it be a worse motorcycle? Nah, not really. The quick shifter works okay. I only ever leave it in one power mode, and I never turn the rear wheel ABS on in the first place. If my bike only cost me a flat $10,000 and it had less in it, not only would it be more accessible to more and more riders, but it would be lighter and simpler too. Look at any motorcycle that's had technological updates year over year, they're always more expensive. I'm looking at you, Gen 3 Hayabusa. Fact, nostrils take turns receiving the majority of the air you breathe, which explains why one is usually stuffier than the other. Goodbye.
You've made it to the end of a Yammie Noob video. Did you like what you saw? Do you want to see more of it? Check it out, right here, just like magic, waiting for you. Click this little square, right here, more memes, more Yammie, more of my face. Isn't that great?